to a vibe.
Yep.
So I keep one in my pocket, and there's red lipstick in every bag.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. One thing that I wanted to let you all know that I forgot to mention at the top is there are some really wonderful breakout rooms for where you can go in between sessions to connect. We have a room for founders where you can connect with other founders. There's a funders room where VCs and angel investors can connect. And then there's a pitch room where you can share your idea, your company, and pitch your company. So make sure that you check those out and connect with other people that are in our forum. And I wanted to introduce the lovely panelists that you have here: Selena Davant, Talia, Boone, and Lauren Napier. I wanted to give you ladies an opportunity to introduce yourself. We can start with you, Selena.
Oh, wow. Hi, everybody. My name is Selena Davant, and I'm a founding partner at Meeting Color, a people-centric creative agency based in Oakland, California. I have uh, I have been a creative entrepreneur for the last 8 years, and I specialize in capturing the essence of brands and turning that into creative content and experiences. And so basically, it could be from doing social media content to a campaign or maybe an event. And so for the past 3 years, my attention has been focused on building and growing Made in Color, which to me is one of my biggest and most challenging ideas so far. And I've been doing this with one of the dopest person I know, who she's in the audience, and she will be speaking later on, Jenna Pruitt. And so basically in the past 3 years, we've already worked with over 30 plus clients in 5 different industries. And we have a team of 10 plus talent of colors making magic with us and for our clients. Today, my intention is to keep it 100 and share my honest experience and perspective around the conversation that we're going to have. Especially as a French Guyanese woman, as a subtle savage, as a photographer, as a designer, and as a creative strategist. So this is how I'm going to bring it all together. And if you have any questions around how to turn a negative into a positive, please DM me in the comments. Let me know, and I'll do my best to support you with that. I can pass the mic to Lauren.
Oh, wow. Thank you. What a fantastic introduction. It's nice to be on the panel with everyone, and it's nice to see everyone in the audience. My name is Lauren Napier. I am the founder of Lauren Napier Beauty, a collection of high-performance skincare. I launched in 2014 with a tax refund and an American Express, and took my brand from, my apartment to 22 different countries around the world. So it's been a very exciting journey. It's been a very exciting venture. I will say Lauren Napier Beauty experienced wild challenges during the pandemic. And basically, the company itself was completely absorbed in all of the chaos with supply chain issues, and just, my brand was all about high performing skincare that's on the go, and no one was going anywhere. Since then, I have been working with a company called Ceasefire. I am now the chief brand officer, and we are bringing very innovative, very new skincare to the masses. It's a very exciting venture, and it is some of the most advanced skincare and science-backed skincare that exists on the market. So I'm really excited to introduce those products to you within the next year. So that's what I'm doing. I'm super excited, and I can't wait for us to revolutionize skincare.
That's awesome. I noticed that you didn't talk about that you're an author now.
Oh, In the pandemic, I'll say this, in the pandemic, while I was trying to recalibrate, and I know pivot was one of the words that everyone really used and maybe overused, but I was recalibrating and pivoting with my business. And the one thing that I did every day was cook something to eat. And those books, not
in
books,
the most
but those
luxurious fashion you've ever seen.
the goal, yeah. So I wanted to make sure that my experience at home was not hell. And I did something amazing and incredible for myself every day. And it inspired so many people that I decided to write a cookbook. It's called Dinner for One. It's still on pre-sale. The copies will go out March 29th, but it is a book all about enjoying yourself, luxuriating, having dinner for one, but also just like enjoying the time and embracing things that life kind of throws at you. Thank you. I see Dinner for One. Thanks for the compliment on the title. Yeah, the pandemic was crazy, and I feel like we just have to embrace life as it comes. And I am a single woman, and I made sure that every moment that I took for myself was something that was delectable, delightful, and then I decided to share it with everyone and inspire them. So I hope that it does. It seems like it is so far. Thank you, everyone.
I can't wait to get my
Thanks
copy.
for the compliments. Oh, it's so beautiful, and I'm so excited to share it with everyone.
Lovely. Talia.
Okay, so I am Talia Boone. First of all, thank you so much, TJ, for pulling this conference together and inviting me to participate. I am honored to be on a panel with you ladies. This is an incredible. I'm so excited. Like I love women supporting women, so this is going to be amazing. But as I said, I'm Talia Boone. I'm a founder and CEO of Postal Petals, and we are a multi-touch point wellness and self-care startup that partners with domestic flower farms to ship bundles of fresh cut flowers to our customers for them to create their own DIY flower arrangements as a form of creative expression and self-care. And so what we're doing is really disrupting the traditional floral industry by changing the way that people traditionally engage with flowers, from a ready-to-use product to an interactive wellness experience. And so through that, we're using DIY flower arranging to meet this booming demand for interactive self-care solutions in both the direct-to-consumer and B2B space. We are also a product of the pandemic. I was saying before we got on that 2 years ago, if you would have said I'd be running a flower startup and looking to raise funding to grow it into a massive empire, I would be like, what? Like that's not, I don't see that happening. But the need for fresh cut flowers to arrange during the pandemic, really as a way for me to kind of soothe the anxiety that I was starting to feel during lockdown, turned into an opportunity that I just could not resist. And so this is how I got here today, and I am in love with this company. I'm so honored to have been chosen to found it. It's a privilege for me to grow it, and I am obsessed with thinking about all of the ways that I can improve people's life with self-care and wellness and community build through, building farms across the communities, across the country, and communities where our people deserve to see, beauty and experience those benefits. So I'm just excited to be here. I'm just in a happy space. I'm fortunate in all aspects of my life. So yeah, that's it. And we're based in LA. We're based in LA. We ship all across the country, except for Hawaii and Alaska. So if you guys are into some DIY, hit us up, postalpetals.com.
I cannot wait to get I made my first order last week, so I cannot wait to get my package in. I also noticed that you didn't mention that you were recently featured in Black Flora, a recent book that was published about Black florists. So yes, big ups for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that is, that's another, for me, I'm still so appreciative and in awe of how well received I've been in this floral industry, and how these women and men have just wrapped their arms around me in the best possible way. I was apprehensive at first. I didn't really know how it would be received. I didn't know if they would view me as competition that they wouldn't want to engage with, but I've just been so well received, and I'm so grateful for it. And the Black Flora book is all about Black florists, Black farmers, and other people who are, that are Black, that are engaged, that are professionals in the floral space. And I'm happy to be a part of a book like this because, we actually ended up starting a database on our websites that people could find Black florists in their cities all across the country, because it was so hard for us to find them. And so, that's another thing about the company that I'm enjoying, is that we're able to use it to start to bridge gaps and tell stories of other Black floral professionals that people could use, that, for farmers, for events, for suppliers, all of those things. So yeah, the book is really incredible. Blackflora.com, I think, is where you can pick it up.
Wonderful. I ordered that one too. I can't wait for it. My book collection is just getting better and better.
That sounds
It's a great book.
Well, thank you all for being on this panel. I wanted to give our attendees an opportunity to hear from founders like yourselves. I wanted to hear maybe, Selena, if you could tell me a little bit about how you built your business and what have been some of the biggest struggles you've encountered.
Totally. That's such a good question. So for me, like the story behind Meaning Color started with my business partner, Jenna, where we were originally accountability partners working towards applying for this residency for Adobe. And so we were meeting every week about this project. And then eventually we didn't make it, but we continued to build our friendship and our creative partnership in a way. And so one day she and I were at this event at a friend's house, and she was mentioning this opportunity to do social media for this commercial real estate in Oakland, California. And I think she was trying to pass it to me, and I was like, why don't we just do it together? And she was like, together? Like together? And I told her, yeah, totally, we should do it together. And so this was the moment where pretty much our life changed, like the trajectory of our life changed, because from this first client where we pitched it together and we got locked it in, we had 4 new properties within like less than a year. And then we ended up working with Clubhouse, and then we ended up working with AdColor. We ended up working with McKinsey and company. It just continued to like expand. There were exponential growth around the amount of client that we got and the amount of project that we received. So, I told you earlier, in 2 years, we had 30 clients. It's kind of like crazy and mind blowing to me, at least. And so, yeah, so this is how we started, from just me and Jenna being friends or accountability partners, to then deciding to build something bigger than ourselves and working with talent from across the country. But I would say some of our biggest challenges are definitely around finances. And, we were generating a lot of money, yet a lot of money is not even enough money to actually run and scale agency, which is crazy, right? Because last year our revenue was $350,000. Yet me and her are the one that gets the least amount of money out of that. It's like everything goes to our talents and other expenses, which is unfortunate. So like finding a way to access money will be very helpful. So then we can feel better about what we do as well and continue to elevate what we're currently doing. Other things that are challenging is growth and stabilization, which I feel is connected to finance again. Not just finance, but I feel like finance will help with growing and stabilizing the business. I think also like some of our other challenges is around people management, because it's like Jenna and I, we're not specifically like managers, we're creatives. And so now we have to wear this management hat and handling all those one-on-one calls, the all hands calls, the team calls, the client calls, and in addition to needing to bring more business, because we need more money to pay the talent.
Yeah.
And the last little struggle that I think, or challenges that we've had recently, is around legal, where like, in contracts, sometimes if you don't have access to a lawyer, you kind of make up your contract based on what you find online. And so the little clauses, they are not the best. So
Yeah.
some of the thing that we're working towards and we're being challenged with on a consistent basis, because it's not really our expertise. We are knowledgeable, but it's not our expertise. So raising capital is not my expertise. Managing people is not my expertise, and legal is not my expertise. Yet I have to learn and figure it out because that's what I'm doing and that's what I need to grow and stabilize my business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that I'm with you and like figuring out where your expertise lies, and if you're not a people manager, finding someone else to help you with that aspect. But you also spoke about raising money and having issues with capital, and I know that Lauren, that's something that you and I have talked extensively about.
Right.
So, what has traditionally been your approach to funding your company, funding your companies, and what has your experience been in raising capital?
Well, I think specifically what we know all the statistics and numbers on Black women and Black founders' access to capital. We know that we receive less than 2% of capital. And we also know that we, Black wealth is 1% of white wealth historically. So not only are we facing the challenge, and also there's the huge income disparities when we're working in corporate America and throughout America. So we're really operating at a disadvantage. It's very challenging for Black founders to access capital. And it's also very challenging for Black founders to access traditional lending. So we really are operating at a monetary disadvantage on all levels. So as I said from the beginning, I always lead saying I started my business with a tax refund in an American Express because that is what I had. That was what I did. And the way that I grew and scaled my business was to constantly reinvest in my business. So like Selena said, you can have revenue, but you're not benefiting from that revenue because you are reinvesting that capital back into your business. And then if you live in a city, I live in Manhattan, if you live in a city that's very expensive, it becomes even more of a challenge to raise that type of money, but also to reinvest in yourself and in your company. But we do it. And I think that every product and every brand has something unique and a unique point of view. And if there were access to capital, then you would have more successful Black women, minority-owned brands out there. That's just a feature of the numbers. We all know that there are challenges. So, I as I mentioned during the pandemic, I experienced quite a bit of challenges with Lauren Napier Beauty and raising access. People knew the brand; they know it very well. It has a global following, but still, even with my retailers, even with the numbers and the revenue that I had, it was still very much a challenge to raise capital.
Yeah, I had the same experience trying to raise capital too. And I know Talia, you're kind of in the middle of trying to raise right now. And what are some of the things that you're experiencing that I would love to hear about your experience raising capital?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too different than what your experience was or what Lauren's experience is. It's been, it's time consuming, right? Like it's people don't often talk about how much time it takes to actually raise money, right? Like and it's interesting because I started this raise process the end of last spring. And I actually had to pause for a bit because as I started talking to my CFO, as we're starting to do planning for, future campaigns next year, funding all of these things, I started to recognize that we were seeing dips in the sales and success of the company, and they coincided with the times that I was most focused on raising, right? And so I say that to say that it's not just, it doesn't just cost founders time to raise money, it also costs them money to raise money. And so and I think also too, there's a lot of what I came up against was people just didn't get, they just don't get it, right? And so when you think about, kind of what's our biggest obstacle, we're doing something that has not been done before, that's never been done before, right? And so the reason that I call us a multi-touch point, wellness and self-care company or startup is because as soon as I can't lead with the flowers, because then immediately they're like, oh, you're like Farm Girl Flowers, or oh, you're like 1-800-Flowers. And I'm like, no, not that at all, right? Like you're too small-sighted if that's the way you see us, because the floral industry in the US is, on par to be like an $18 billion industry, right? Which is great, right? That's cute. But the self-care industry is like $450 billion, right? And so it's a much larger piece of the pie. And so if people could look at flowers as the way I look at them, is like the Trojan horse for the bigger play, right? Like the flowers are the tool for the self-care and the mindfulness. But it's very difficult for me to be able to get past that barrier of helping people to understand that. One, because they're so used, well, primarily because people are so used to seeing flowers as this ready to use product, right? Think about it. When you get flowers, whether you get them from, your florist or a grocery store or any other traditional retailer, they come to you as this ready to use product. They show up at your door, deliver them to you, you ooh and ah, take a couple pictures, maybe throw them up on the gram, then you sit them down at your table and, you don't engage with them again until it's time, to throw them out. Whereas what we're doing is we're saying, no, this is a wellness experience. This is something that we want you to look forward to at the end of every week. After a long week of work, we want you to, pour a glass of wine, open up a box, and just, woosah, and take that.
It is a therapeutic practice.
Very therapeutic, yeah.
Can I also say I appreciate your point of view when it comes to flowers, because that's something that I incorporate into my life, and it is part of my self-care and part of my own wellness. If you, not to plug my own book, but within the book, literally every dinner was accompanied by flowers, because I wanted to take care of myself. And I think it's so important. And so you talk about self-care, and you talk about the flower industry, and then bringing together, let me make a full circle conversation, but the fact that the investors couldn't see the bigger play. And I think when we talk about investors and Black women having access to capital, there's so much that they don't know or appreciate about us as consumers, our audience, and then as founders. And so that also makes it quite the challenge. Like you said, they make an immediate comparison to 1-800-Flowers or another brand, but they sometimes don't see the perspective, our point of view and perspective, and the value that brings to said industry. So it's just important for that to be part of the discussion.
Yeah. And I think that just points to the bigger issue too, is that we are seeking funding from traditional avenues where the decision makers don't look like us, and they don't have our same issues. And so that's why I'm so adamant about getting women to be involved in deploying capital, because kindly asking the architects of the system that we live in to change it is not going to get us to break past 3%.
Absolutely. And I want to say, like, we often say people don't look like us. And I think that's a very gentle way of saying that they have no desire to understand anything that is not reflective of their image. That's a very gentle way of saying it. And we need to really address what the issue is. If it does not directly impact or affect them, then the investors have zero interest in it. And so we need to start seeking different funding alternatives. But we also need to make sure that investors who have a more close relationship to us as a community, that they are investing as well, because there's also that we have investors of color or Black investors, and they're equally as difficult to hear our story, to hear the story and to invest in the story. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the reality. So we're faced in this revolving door. And I think, I'm not sure which one of you ladies said that it's time consuming. It is time consuming. It's incredibly time consuming. And not only that, it's demoralizing. It's an exhausting process. And when you are an underfunded founder already, and under-resourced founder, you do not have the time or energy to invest in conversations that are not going to be fruitful. And
Yeah.
that so often is the plight of founders of color, and specifically Black women founders.
Yeah.
And Lauren, if you don't mind, can I just add to that?
Absolutely.
2 things that you said that were really important is even talking about, people always like, oh, there's so much money out there now for women founders and Black founders, and it shouldn't be that difficult for you. But the reality is that there's more of us who are now building funds and building those funds to invest in the community. But what you have to understand is that they're just barely getting into it oftentimes themselves, and they don't want to make mistakes with that money. And so I find that they're often more cautious than the traditional VCs when they're
Exactly.
investing, because they know that they're going to raise another fund, and they have to make sure that first fund performs. And so
Absolutely.
there's this fallacy, this falsehood of like equity or equality that's happening right now in the funding space that we as founders are simply not seeing. And to your point about it being demoralizing, I that was another reason that I took a step back about, we're getting back into the raise piece as well. But you also have to be very, very careful to protect your spirit when you're in these spaces, right? Like being a founder is hard enough. I'm a solo founder, so it's also lonely. Right
Yeah.
now, I'm so clear about my vision. I'm so clear about where this company's going. I'm so clear about how big it's going to be. When you're a founder in that way, you cannot allow that type of doubt to creep into your spirit, because it can be incredibly distracting. It can take you fully off your mission. And that's not to say don't take feedback. I believe in feedback. I believe in the power of counsel. But you also have to make sure that you are not creating yourself to be vulnerable by constantly allowing people to pick apart what you know to be true and what you know to be. If they don't get it, you have to be careful about the way in which you process that information. And I see someone in the comments saying it's really a catch-22. It absolutely is. It's in so many ways. It's this really interesting. Like I said this to my therapist, that it feels like it's like emotionally abusive cycle where you are not getting you're not getting what you need, but you keep going back because you need something from them. And I find it to be very unhealthy. And so I'm working hard, not just to figure out how to get the funding that I need, but also to figure out how I can get the funding I need outside of traditional means. Because in the same way that I want to make this company successful, I need to be at my very best mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And sometimes this process can be, like Lauren said so eloquently, very demoralizing.
Yeah, I feel like that's consistent experience. And to that end, I kind of wanted to pose one last question. Next time we need a full hour, because I could go on and on. But I wanted to ask you ladies, how do you feel about the use of programming and mentorship as a gate to provide women-led businesses capital? I'm going to let you chime in on this because I have a position, but I wanted to know how you feel like that use of mentorship as
Yeah, I guess I do want to kind of give a contrast around the fact that, Talia and Lauren, they all have like a product in place. And then for me, who has a service-based company, it's even as hard for us to even understand or get to talk to anyone that would want to fund our business, because we are not a typical product-based business. So we're not considered like a tech product or whatever the thing is. So, but to answer your question around this programming and mentoring, I feel like for me, I don't have an MBA, so I didn't go to Stanford. I have an MFA in advertising. I'm creative, so I don't even know where to go. Like I know because I'm tapped into the culture, I'm tapped in the community, so I know about like big names. I know about A16Z. Like I would like A16Z to invest in me. I would like Serena Venture to invest in me. I would like Backstage Capital to invest in me. Like why? I mean, me when I made in color, not me specifically, but all of those things, like the concept of the gatekeepers and knowing who is where and how to get there is it just feels like a curse. And I think we just Talia and Lauren just talked about it, it's another obstacle to like growth when we actually just need money to continue to level up because we're already there. You know what I mean? We don't need more. I mean, we do need mentorship and we do need program, but also we need money first, also because the product is already successful or the service is already successful. So why do we have to do all of those things to get to the next level?
Yep, I want to say that Black founders, Black women specifically, since we're at the intersection of Black History and Women's History Month, we are over mentored and underfunded.
Come on. Yes.
We so often people make pledges and are very vocal about potential contributions to supporting Black women and Black founders. And what we saw specifically in 2020, after all of the visible violence against Black people, Black Americans, is that, you know, there was something like $50 billion in contributions that were pledged, and less than 1% of that has actually been received by founders. And so again, we're working at a disadvantage, but I find it to be overwhelmingly condescending and offensive to be constantly told that we require mentorship. We can always learn something, okay? We learn new things every single day, and knowledge, of course, is something that we value and we want to absorb. This said, because we have proven, you know, that our businesses are viable, then if we had the resources to execute on those ideas, then these businesses, again, would be very successful. But when you have, again, just think about it. The average friends and family round for a white founder is $250,000. And if Black people in America have 1% of that wealth, then that's $2,500. What an overwhelming disparity that is. And how can we create and grow and scale businesses with that level of with that disparity? It's almost impossible. So we have to find a way, and mentorship and pitch competition are not it.
Because it's essentially making us dance for our dinner, right?
For our dinner.
Yeah. And that is not, we're the only ones that have to do that, right? There's other groups that don't have the traction I have. They don't have the press that we have. They don't have they're not the same. Yet they can be funded off of, you know, an idea that's written on this, you know, sketched out on the back of a napkin. Whereas I can show I've proved concept, I've established relationships, I've proved that there's an audience for what I want, all of these things. But they're steady talking to me about pitch competitions that are, you know, $1,000, $2,500. I'm like, I can't buy boxes for that. Like that doesn't pay me, that doesn't pay my staff for a week. Like it's just very interesting. And I think to Lauren's point, again, it's like there's no question. It's not lost on me the connection between how few dollars are allocated to us and actually that get to us, and how few of our businesses actually succeed, right? Because you're asking us to do with, as Lauren said, $2,500 what others are doing with $250,000. It's just it's not possible. Like we are magical women, and we can stretch a lot. But there's only so far that we can stretch these things, and the resources are what we need to be successful. And without them,
which always would seem to me that we're the founders that you'd be looking for, because if you would invest, you know that this founder is going to maximize your investment, you know, and multiply that investment. And that's pretty much, that's most of the reason why I found it so demoralizing, because the proof of concept existed, the resilience existed. Every attribute that makes an ideal founder exists in these specific founders, but we can't get across the finish line, and it is not for lack of hard work.
I don't think we have anything. Oh, what happened? What happened?
You're still here.
Okay, cool. Definitely women are a safe bet when it comes to investing. I could go on and on with this conversation, but we need to get on to the next panel. So wanted to invite, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Selena.
Yes,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Lauren.
Thank you so much
You
for
all are
having me.
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and wanted to invite you all to meet in the breakout rooms. So we're gonna end here. And again, thank you ladies so much. And tune in for our next panel, Angels Are Becoming the Mainstream, with me, Christina, and Jess.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, very nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.